Welcome to the ZTC Edge P2V Client for Virtual or Physical Machine Migration training module. You can migrate a physical machine or virtual machine to transfer it over the network to a new virtual machine on the ZTC Edge system. To migrate a physical machine or virtual machine over the network, you'll need to boot the P2V client, also known as Virt P2V, on the source physical machine or virtual machine, and use the client to configure, initiate, and monitor the secure network transfer from the source side. No configuration steps are required on the ZTC Edge system until after the migration is complete, but you can confirm that the migration is in progress on the volumes page of the ZTC Edge console as volumes associated with the new virtual machine begin to appear. Caution: consider backing up your source physical machine or virtual machine before preparing to migrate it. Here are some notes to consider prior to starting your migration. The migration process supports only physical machines or virtual machines running CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 6 and 7, Windows 7 and 8, and Windows Server 2008 Release 2 and 2012. Please review the current Everrun documentation for the most up-to-date version of supported operating systems. For Windows-based physical machines or virtual machines that support fast startup mode, you must disable this feature before the migration process. Otherwise, the migration process will fail. For Linux-based physical machines or virtual machines, consider editing the etcfs tab file before starting the migration process, and comment out entries for data volumes, and allow only the boot volume to mount. Because Linux-based virtual machines use different device names on the ZTC Edge system, your new virtual machine may boot into single-user mode if it cannot mount volumes with their original device names. You can restore the etcfs tab entries with the correct device names after the migration process. Your source physical machine or virtual machine must be offline for the duration of the migration process. Consider scheduling a planned maintenance period for the migration. The time required for migration depends on the size and number of volumes on the source system, as well as the network bandwidth between the source and the target ZTC Edge system. For example, transferring a source system with 120 gig boot volume over a 1 gig per second network may take about 30 minutes. You can migrate multiple physical machines or virtual machines at one time, but sharing network bandwidth may increase migration times. To prevent conflicts with the original physical machine or virtual machine, the P2V client automatically assigns a new MAC address to each network interface in the new virtual machine. However, you must manually update any IP addresses and host names as needed. If the ZTC Edge system switches from the primary physical machine to secondary physical machine during a migration, the migration process fails. This does not affect the continuous uptime of your system, but you must reboot the P2V client on the source physical machine or virtual machine and start over. As a prerequisite, both physical machines on the ZTC Edge system must be online for the migration process to function properly. On the Physical Machines page of the ZTC Edge console, verify that both physical machines are in the running state and that neither physical machine is in maintenance mode or in the process of synchronizing. We'll now look at migrating a physical machine and virtual machine to the ZTC Edge system. First, we'll look at preparing for migrating a physical machine to the ZTC Edge system. You'll need to download the P2V client ISO file. To do so, go to www.stratus.com, click on Downloads, and from the Drivers and Tools section of the ZTC Edge download page, scroll down to the ZTC Edge P2V Client for Virtual or Physical Machine Migration section and click on Download the P2V Client. If you want to verify the integrity of the ISO image, you can also download the associated FCIV checksum file or MD5 sum file. Next, burn the P2V Client ISO file to a CD-ROM that you'll use to boot the physical machine. Then insert the P2V Client CD into the CD/DVD drive of the source physical machine. You can optionally burn the image to a USB drive if your system supports USB devices. Next, shut down the physical machine in preparation to boot the P2V client. We'll now look at preparing for migrating a virtual machine to the ZTC Edge system. To prepare for migrating a virtual machine to the ZTC Edge system, the steps are similar to the preparation for the physical machine. You'll need to download the P2V Client ISO file from the Drivers and Tools sections of the ZTC Edge Downloads page, ensuring that you download the version of the P2V Client that matches the version of your ZTC Edge system to which you are migrating the virtual machine. Unlike the physical machine migration, you do not need to burn a CD. For a virtual machine migration, you'll connect the P2V Client ISO file to the source virtual machine and set the virtual CD drive as the boot device in the associated hypervisor. Shut down the virtual machine in preparation to boot the P2V client. At this point, the migration for a physical machine or virtual machine to the ZTC Edge system is the same. Power on the source physical machine or virtual machine to boot the P2V client. In this example, we are utilizing a Windows VM and VMware. Please be aware that these initial steps may be different for you depending on your hypervisor. After a minute or so, the Virt P2V window displays. The P2V client automatically obtains network settings through DHCP. Static settings are unnecessary for the migration process. If necessary, you can configure the network settings of the target virtual machine later on in the ZTC Edge system. You can wait 60 seconds for the live CD P2V to load, or you can click on Start Live CD P2V. You'll be taken to the Virt P2V screen. Enter the connection settings for the conversion server, which is the ZTC Edge system. Enter the hostname or IP address of the system and the password for the root account. You must use the root account of the ZTC Edge host operating system. Next, click Test Connection. If the P2V client connects to the ZTC Edge system, click Next to continue. If the P2V client cannot connect, verify the connection settings and try to connect again. The Target Properties page is next to display. Please note that due to rendering issues, the screen may not correctly display in your window. Enter the name for the target virtual machine that will be displayed in the ZTC Edge console. Please note that the name must be different from any existing virtual machines on the ZTC Edge system. The number of vCPUs and memory values are automatically detected and completed, but optionally modify them if you want the virtual machine on the ZTC Edge system to have more CPUs or memory than the source physical machine or virtual machine. Leave the default values in the Virt V2V output options section as Everrun HA and RAW. Select which fixed hard disks, which are volumes, to include in the migration by activating the checkbox next to each device. You must select at least one volume, including the boot volume. Because the P2V client is a Linux-based utility, all devices are listed by Linux device names, where SDA or VDA represents the boot volume. Next, select which network interfaces to include in the migration by activating the checkbox next to each device. When you are ready to migrate the physical machine or virtual machine to the ZTC Edge system, click Start Conversion. The conversion process begins and displays the progress. Please keep in mind that the conversion can take up to 30 minutes for every 20 gigs of data. In this video, the process has been expedited. During the migration, you'll notice in the ZTC Edge console that there is no indication of the VM migration seen on the Virtual Machines page. However, you will see activity on the Volumes page. When the migration is complete, the P2V client displays a success message. If applicable, you can eject the CD or virtual CD and click Power Off to shut down the source physical machine or virtual machine, or you can click Reboot. After the migration, the new virtual machine on the ZTC Edge system is located on the primary physical machine, and it remains in a stop state. Before starting the virtual machine, you may want to configure the virtual machine to meet your needs. To complete the migration on the ZTC Edge system, open the Virtual Machines page in the ZTC Edge console. Select the new virtual machine in the top pane and click Configure to open the reprovisioned virtual machine wizard. Use the wizard to configure the desired vCPUs, memory, storage, and network settings for the virtual machine. If your source physical machine or virtual machine had more than one network interface, configure the additional network interfaces that were not included in the migration process. If you will continue running the source physical machine or virtual machine, ensure that the MAC address for each network interface in the new virtual machine is different from the source physical machine or virtual machine. Click Finish on the last wizard page to implement the changes. You can now click Start to boot the new virtual machine. Click Console to open the console of the virtual machine and log on to the guest operating system. For Windows-based virtual machines only, the virtual machine will show as booting in the ZTC console even after it's successfully loaded. You'll need to update the VirtIO drivers to the latest supported versions. Please note that the correct VirtIO drivers are already present in Linux-based virtual machines. The process for updating your VirtIO drivers is covered at the end of this module. Once the VM is running, you should disable any guest operating system services that are unnecessary for the operation on the ZTC Edge system. For example, if you migrated from a physical machine source, disable any services that interact directly with the hardware. Examples include Dell Open Manage, OMSA, HP Insight Manager, or Diskkeeper. If you migrated from a virtual machine source, disable any services associated with other hypervisors. Examples include VMware Tools, Hyper-V Tools, or Citrix Tools for virtual machines. After disabling these services, restart the guest operating system to implement your changes. After you verify that the new virtual machine is functioning properly, the migration process is complete. However, the ZTC Edge system may continue to synchronize data between physical machines to enable high availability operations. If you migrated a Linux VM, this completes the migrating a physical machine or virtual machine to a ZTC Edge system training module. If you installed a Windows VM, please continue on to view how to update your VirtIO drivers. To update the VirtIO drivers in a Windows-based virtual machine, download the VirtIO ISO file from the Downloads page of stratus.com. On the Downloads page, click ZTC Edge, if not already displayed, and then select the appropriate version. Scroll down to the Drivers and Tools section and then continue scrolling to ZTC Edge VirtIO driver update. Click the link to the appropriate file. The file will download locally on your computer. Ensure that you download the version of the VirtIO ISO file that matches the version of your ZTC Edge system. If you want to verify the integrity of the ISO image, also download the associated FCIV checksum file, and then if necessary, download the Microsoft File Checksum Integrity Verifier FCIV executable file from the Microsoft Support webpage. Next, open the ZTC console and create a VCD of the VirtIO ISO file. To create a VCD, open Virtual CDs under Resources and click on Create VCD. Provide a name to the VCD and click on Upload ISO file. Click on Browse and browse to the download location of the VirtIO ISO. Click Finish. Once the VCD has been created, go to the Virtual Machines page. Insert the VCD into the Windows-based VM by clicking on the CD Drives and USB Devices tab, and then click on Insert CD and select the VirtIO CD you just created. Now console into your migrated VM. In the VM console window, open Device Manager in the guest operating system. The method to open Device Manager varies depending on the release of the guest operating system. One method is to open the control panel and select Device Manager. Another method is to open the search window and type Device Manager. Expand network adapters and locate the Red Hat VirtIO Ethernet adapter. There may be more than one adapter present depending on the number of network interfaces in your VM. If the Red Hat VirtIO Ethernet adapter is not present, as is the case here, the VirtIO driver is not installed. Expand other devices and locate the unknown Ethernet controller device. Update the driver for this device. To update the driver for the device, right-click the Red Hat VirtIO Ethernet adapter or Ethernet controller and select Update Driver Software. Click Browse My Computer for the driver software and specify the location of the VirtIO Ethernet driver for your guest operating system. In our example, it's the virtual CD we just created. The driver is named NetKVM. Finish updating the driver. Repeat the driver update for each additional Red Hat VirtIO Ethernet adapter or Ethernet controller device. Next, expand storage controllers and locate the Red Hat VirtIO SCSI controller. There may be more than one controller present depending on the number of volumes in your VM. If the Red Hat VirtIO SCSI controller is not present, the VirtIO driver is not installed. Locate the unknown SCSI controller device and update the driver for this device. Right-click the Red Hat VirtIO SCSI controller or SCSI controller and select Update Driver Software. Click Browse My Computer for the driver software, specifying the location of the VirtIO SCSI driver, which is called VIO Store, for your guest operating system. In our example, it's the virtual CD we just created. Caution: although the device name is Red Hat VirtIO SCSI controller, you must select the storage driver file that is labeled VIO Store and not VIO SCSI if present. Installing the VIO SCSI driver may crash your VM. Finish updating the driver. If applicable, restart the guest operating system to load the updated drivers. Repeat the driver update for each additional Red Hat VirtIO SCSI or SCSI controller device. Back on the Virtual Machines page, we'll now see the state of our migrated VM change from booting to running. One final troubleshooting note. After your VM migrates, prior to starting the VM, you may still see minor alerts next to the volumes that were migrated from the source VM. Simply start the VM in the ZTC console and the alerts will clear. This completes the migrating a physical machine or virtual machine to a ZTC Edge system training module. Thank you for viewing this module.